Ah, ah, ah. We got approved. So thank God. We are approved. We will be on Kickstarter. Let me talk to my microphone. We're gonna be on Kickstarter. Well, that's really freaky. Look at that shit. We got approved. So the the Kickstarter people thought that my revisions, because I got denied the first time, were actually a-okay. And I will start a week from this Friday because I wanted to give myself at least a little bit of ramp up time to like rally the troops of like immediate friends that might help out. I don't like to pressure anybody. In fact, I hate asking for money. I can't stand it, which sucks because I'm in an industry where you constantly have to like in development for a project you have to ask for it. I don't have millions of dollars in my pocket to do a film or make a pilot. This is on a smaller level, just as irritating for me. But since we're all nerds and more games made is more games played, I firmly believe that playing role playing games will keep you young. That's just me. So, anyways, congratulations to all of us because hopefully this will get done. Hopefully, it may not. You guys may like, oh fuck this guy, not one goddamn red cent. Noctis. I will be bugging you more about this in the future. The campaign setting, which is 5e and 2024 compatible. The way I'm writing it right now, I would love to make it compatible for DC20 because it's like I love reading the stuff that comes out. I'm a backer of DC20 because I really liked the idea of the ramp up to the system, which is great. Daggerheart also I'd love because I'm a critter as well, so I'd love to make it playable in that genre as well, which means I'd have to make special cards, so that you could level up, and then monsters based off of their system. And Draw Steel MCDM is also just like a staple of the industry. It would be great to like make at least handouts. I can't imagine they would approve me before I'm ready to go to print, but I can at least make like supplements that could like you can adapt this too or whatever in case you're running that's your favorite system and you like to play. I'm going to talk to you about two aspects of the game of Noctis that I'm putting out that don't have to do with anything about the actual classes or races or items, but this is actually for the GMs. So I've got two aspects of this game that you've probably already thought of. I can imagine many of you already do this, but some of you newer GMs that don't, take it from an old man like me. This is gonna help your game playing, and it might help make a little bit more fun encounters, bring a little bit more dicier moments for your tables. I need to remove this. This is distracting me. I keep looking at this stupid background. We're on Kickstarter, yay! Anyways, 1 second. Hey, that's better. Not distracted. So, what I wanted to do with this book, besides obviously write what I think to be kind of a cool horror steampunk setting, put in some of my tips and tricks whenever I'm DMing. And else, you'll see a lot of the other DMs that that are famous right now. They do the same thing too. At least sometimes they do. Not everybody. You can't do it all the time. It's ridiculous. Probably a lot of you veteran GMs already know. Newer ones, if not, this might be helpful for you to help elevate game night as a GM. I have a thing called a cinematic RP system, which is bullshit. Name for upping the level of drama and play. So I think that everything comes from the dice. Don't fudge your rolls. Don't fudge your rolls. Let's do one. Don't fudge your rolls. I know people are like, oh, yeah, you need to lie about it. It'll cause drama. And I'm like, oh, drama? There's enough drama in dropping a die enough. But what I will say is this. Whenever there's a crit or a crit fail, apart from what happens between the two individuals that are involved in the critical hit or critical failure, there needs to be, outside of the PCs and the immediate monsters, a global event. So some sort of onlooker. So I make the mention in the book, like, you're fighting in a market and someone crit fails, lops lops a leg off of an apple cart, and apples go and spill all over the road. Now it's difficult terrain for everyone. But more than that, you see the guy rush out of his thing. You're trampling on my reds, and he starts to try and pick up some of the apples as his wife feverishly is like, "Oh, you're gonna get your head lopped off. Come back inside, Francis." And in the middle of play, like the players will be like, "That's ridiculous." But what it does too is if, like, let's say they're fighting these rogues or ruffians, brigands, and someone gets a lucky shot and almost takes the brigand out, he may then grab Francis, the apple cart owner, and hold him ransom and pull him back to the side. All of a sudden, you've made is a dynamic scene that isn't just encapsulated within good guys and bad guys. There are the onlookers. You'll hear someone scream. People are trying to be quiet. Someone screams. You see a child's traumatically hurt. There may be someone in the party. Their backstory is like, I was an orphan. They see some child, see someone get murdered, their head decapitated, and that instantly pulls that player like, oh shit, and they want to, in the midst of the fight, rush over to protect this kid, or like, it's all right, it's fine, or spin their round to do a spell and like knock that kid out, like sleep the child, so that they don't see anything else traumatic. And I think you should reward that kind of play too. Like jumps in and does that as opposed to, min-max. We're going to fight to win. Like sometimes that involves saving people. The Spider-Man aspect, right? You're going to save folks in the face of others trying to do you bodily harm. The next thing too is sometimes it's difficult. You'll feel yourself getting into a rut of like, all right, and you stab the orc and you get him. Way to go, Beauregard. All right, Toby, it's your turn. And it feels like you're on a conveyor belt. So a lot of times what you'll do, I think, is segue to the next person that's in the roster. So as you see Beauregard slash this person across the belly and it cuts through their doublet and a little bit of blood, and it goes, the blood like comes over and splatters on Toby's face. Toby, what are you going to do? And like, you've naturally created a segue from one person's actions and the results of their attack into the next player, and the player's like, "What? You hit me in the face? Yeah, what are you gonna do?" And then like, it will feel more organic. Sometimes it's difficult because the next turn order, the person may be across the room, but you can kind of start to do different bits as someone, he maybe overswings and misses. Have them twirl around and almost fall over as the person looks over at you, Alice, the druid, and you're way across the quad. You see Beauregard look at you with a fearful gaze. He may be losing this fight, and you can see it on his face. What are you gonna do? And that, or what's your move? It's your turn. So these natural segues from one character to another may make the combat feel less like a conveyor belt. Actually, I should say three, the third thing. C, 3. We'll stick with numbers. Alphanumeric, we'll do it. We'll just flip around. Who cares? You don't have to always narrate everything. Like, players are future GMs too, right? And sometimes they're better at it than you are. So I think that a lot of times asking the players to describe stuff like, oh, dude, this guy's in your face. What are you going to do? I'd like describe how you attack him with a hit, do booming blade or whatever. And you get them to describe their actions kind of almost specifically. I know basically in the gameplay, it's purely about, I roll a dice, I do this item, this spell or this fight or this tactic. This is basically what it does. But getting them to get into a storyteller position for a brief moment can pull someone that's maybe shy at a table out of their shell. But then also it feels more collaborative, and the game should feel that way. It should, in my opinion, it shouldn't be like, I'm the DM and I'm here to fight you. I'm part of this story with you all. The dice will reveal the fate of this evening. Even I don't know how it will go. I think that builds a lot of camaraderie between you and the players, and it doesn't put you in opposition. It's more like you're an arbiter, which is, you are. 4, there is no 4. So I think we'll just jump to 5. And this is one that I think a lot of GMs don't know how to do or forget to do. So in some instances, not every fight, but in some instances during combat, there will be a natural lull, usually by the time that you're kind of getting down to the last few bad guys. And it's like, oh, it's a foregone conclusion. You're gonna win, In this scenario of In the scenario of, let's go back to the apple cart owner, the brigand is nearly the last one. He grabs, the apple cart owner with the knife at his throat, and he's like, "Oh, I'm out of here! If this man dies, you're gonna see his plump belly spill all over the ground." He's like, "Let me out of here!" And he make the best situation. He wants to get away. During that moment, his accomplice runs off in the other direction, possibly splitting the party. But at that point, you almost kind of pull out of rounds, and you're forcing an RP moment with a little role play, and then roll another initiative as reinforcements come in, or a third party, the city guard comes through, and they don't know who's who, right? The adventurers can look like brigands to the untrained eye. So all of a sudden you have a third party rushes in, and that complicates things. So now they want to capture this guy, but now it turns into this RP thing, and perhaps the guards also start to like, drop your weapons now, we'll be forced to slit your throats, whatever. I guess they're really angry guards. Usually they want to try and capture people. Give a little respite from the normal rigmarole of they attack, you attack, they attack, you cast a spell. Like, there's a break, there's RP, but then also you're bringing another dynamic. And those are really healthy breath marks. Saving Private Ryan, a lot of sound designers do this too. You can't have the conflicts of war constantly playing in your ears. You have to give your ear holes time to rest. So every time they dip below the waves, there's a break, and that allows you to not just get overwhelmed. It doesn't turn combat into a white noise. You don't just like, and that's basically the ideas of the cinematic RP system. The other thing I want to talk about, in Ravenloft, they kind of have a somewhat to like Cthulhu. They've got like an insanity, fear-based processes. It wasn't Ravenloft. Was it? I think it's Out of the Abyss. Oh my God, that's right. Out of the Abyss has got a really interesting and pretty gritty, psychotic break mechanic within that module. And I wanted to make something similar to that, because I think if you tell players they're going insane or they're getting stressed out, they don't always play that to the hilt. Now remember, you're friends with this evil caster that just charmed you. What are you going to do? And a lot of players are like, well, I'm not going to hurt my friends. Like, yeah, I get it. But, are you really going to play it to the hilt? So a lot of times, in the same vein, you want to put in some kind of game mechanic that they can't really sidestep. There's a penalty, Every time someone drops to 0 hit points, there's a chance that they could get, in my world, it's called dread, these levels of dread. There's not many. In fact, there's just 4. The 4th one leading to insanity. And they are somewhat like exhaustion levels. They have debilitating effects. The downside is you can never get rid of them. You can use spells to alleviate them, so like a lesser restoration. So greater restoration will drop down 2 levels of dread. But these are things the players have to deal with. And the only way to get rid of them is once you're in town, you can spend your heroic inspirations to go into like the church or someplace that's like some kind of divine solace. And you get counseling. You basically go to a therapist. And they try to help you through this. And you have a role. It's like you would if you were dropping down and you're going into system shock death saves. So just a 10 or higher on the die. And you spend your heroic inspiration. You may make it, you may not. And that's the only way to get rid of the dread. It's always there. Kind of dipping back to the cinematic RP system. Once someone drops to 0 hit points, right now in combat, usually that's traumatic enough. And people are like, oh my God, Chad just went down. Okay, who's going to heal him? And it turns into like this normal mundane mechanic. What you can do too is also make the party that witnessed it or someone nearby, especially if one of the players actually goes, oh shit, dude, what? Like if they verbally say they're kind of like on the ropes, you need to lean into that. And you can say like, hey, make me a wisdom saving throw. And they're like, wait, what? Why? And you're like, oh, would you just, humor me? Thank you. If they fail, and you're not trying to be a jerk, but you can be like, oh, you are much like your natural reaction just now. Watching them go down is traumatic. And you instantly just feel this flush of nerves like rattle you. You have disadvantage for this next round, whatever you're going to do. So at that point, they're like, what, dude, what? Like they kind of feel this panic set in. Disadvantage in this one, it sucks, right? The net resembles like it's a -5 positive, positive or negative. If you got advantage or disadvantage is what it kind of accounts to. But there are ways to get advantage to counteract that and to go back to a normal roll. So it's not like you're like completely hampering them, but you're giving them an obstacle that they can't sidestep that also compounds into an emotional obstacle. You don't want to be combative about it. But if it's a really horrific thing, like someone gets just destroyed by a tremendous amount of damage, it doesn't outright kill them, but it's like they take like 40 points of damage and, all you're down to 0 hit points, go into death saves. It feels like that should be more impactful for the rest of the party. They can be amazed by it, but does it really do anything other than just like it's a game mechanic you have to kind of like work around? Giving them something that's, that they have to think about strategically wise in order to like, yeah, I got to get this guy up, but now I have disadvantage on all my shit. And I'm not near him. I've got to make an athletics or acrobatics check to get to him just to use my bonus action to give him a potion to get him up. That can kind of cause a nice dicey situation. Those are my little tips for GMs if you're newer to running a game that might kind of help you out. You can't go wrong. You can overuse them, I'll say that. So not every fight needs to be complex, but definitely your favorite NPCs that you want to be challenging. Add in a lot of these global elements for critical hits and failures. Add in some traumatic events as horror of the moment, seeing someone go down. I mean, I personally in my life have never seen someone murdered or knocked out. Anything apart from slap videos you see online. What is that, by the way? Who thought that would be a sport or something? Is it even a fucking sport? I'm going to stand across from you and let you just kind of slap my face. Like, do we have matching uniforms? Are we going to sponsor that? It's like Pepsi, sponsored by Pepsi, fighting the, Jonathan, sponsored by Coke, slap shit at each other. Hopefully you'll back my Kickstarter.